Welcome to another episode of WTF Cinema.
Thanks for coming back for another episode of The Tenant on WTF Cinema. Let's go ahead and dive right back into it. So he wakes up the next morning and hears workmen finally replacing the area of roof that the dead chick threw herself through. And when they look up 4 or 5 stories and see him, they start laughing. Because apparently he's wearing a tiny bit of makeup. Well, it's interesting, and I'm sure there's that suspense part because he didn't put the makeup on, but he's wearing the makeup. What's going on with that? What I can't help but ask is, how did they see a little bit of eyeshadow from 4 stories down? Those are some pretty damn perceptive workers. And if they have so much time on their hands that they can detect eyeshadow of a guy 5 stories up, then they're not doing the work they're getting paid for. Somebody needs to look into this. At this point in the movie, he becomes obsessed with the idea that everybody's trying to turn him into the dead chick. That he believes everybody's in on it. All of his neighbors, everybody wants him to become the dead chick so that he'll commit suicide. Which seems like a really long, drawn-out plan to get somebody to kill themselves, right? I mean, poison seems like it'd be quicker. His response to this plot, to try and turn him into a woman, is to go out and buy a wig. Isn't that exactly what you were trying to...
Just shoes, my dear.
That's... You sure you...
She's not as young.
Okay. And now, possibly the scariest part of this entire movie. Roman Polanski in drag.
Oh.
The next morning he wakes up to find that his tooth is missing. And eventually finds it in the wall with the other one. The other one that we saw him throw away, that is now back in the wall. Okay. That night, he's sitting in drag, staring out a window, because who hasn't been there? And he sees this soccer ball being kicked up. And by the way, that's pretty impressive height for a soccer ball. It's, what, 3, 4, 5 stories? And the kid apparently never misses. And then the soccer ball becomes his head. The following sequence is creepy. I'll grant it that. But it doesn't actually make any sense. There's never any context given for it, and it never influences anything that happens afterwards other than fuel his ongoing psychoses. We never get an explanation. So his insanity grows and grows, and he never seeks the help of his friends. He does at one point seek the help of the dead chick's friend, and then he decides she's in on the conspiracy. Now my point would be, since all of this seems to happen after you got the dead chick's apartment, wouldn't you talk to your friends you had before then and see if they could help you? No, they've ceased to exist. He also hasn't gone to work in like 2 weeks from what we can see. But he's still making money to pay rent, so... Finally, his insanity reaches critical mass as we get everybody's favorite sequence. That's it. Movie's over. He's dead. Damn. Don't worry though, the movie's almost over. Really, I promise. So all his neighbors gather around, mostly concerned about the fact that they just fixed that roof that he fell through, and now he's fallen through it again, and he manages to drag his broken and shattered body back up to his apartment, several stories up, and goes for it again. If nothing else, you gotta give this guy points for persistence. How many people do you know that have jumped out of a 3-4 story building twice in a row? That's dedication. Finally, the last scene of the movie, we see that he's now in the hospital, staring at himself meeting the dead chick's friend for the first time.
Sorry.
This is where the movie completely falls apart.
What on earth could have happened?
And I've never seen anybody who has a logical explanation that can explain every aspect of this film. I'm going to start with the least popular theories, alright? The least popular theory is some kind of time-traveling thing that's going on, where he really is the dead chick, and he's living out her life in reverse or something. But it doesn't really work, because throughout the course of the movie, we meet some of her friends who talk about things that he never does, and that he's never a part of, but she was. So he can't be the dead chick. It doesn't work no matter what kind of time travel paradox you're going for. Now, the movie makes it pretty clear that Roman Polanski's just going nuts, is what's happening. But what causes the insanity? When does it start? Because he starts hallucinating at the dead chick's funeral. So, it's not necessarily the neighbors influencing him, because he hasn't even met most of them by that point. Ultimately, it's easy to be creepy if you don't have to explain any of the imagery you use. You can just throw up creepy image after creepy image. People staring at you in bathrooms, and soccer balls turning into heads, and people dressing up as you in jester costumes. It's easy to do this and to be creepy, especially when you got that soundtrack going for you. But that does not a good movie make. You gotta explain. How do these things tie together? Where do they come from? What causes them? You have to let the audience in on it. Or if you want to let them draw their own conclusions, leave one to be drawn. Any theory that you can come up with to explain this movie can be disproved by something in it. Go look on Wikipedia. Even it is unsure what this movie is about, and ultimately leaves the choice up to you, except it gives you choices that you can rule out by watching the movie. Well, that's all the time we've got for this episode. Join us next time. I don't know what the movie will be, but you know it'll be fun. Meanwhile, this little baby has an appointment in the backyard. Roxy, you done with that hole yet?
Thank you for watching WTF Cinema. Until next time, what the f***, man?